Good afternoon and welcome. You're tuned into Arirang News, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kwon Jang-ho, and it's good to have you with us. The next meeting between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump could be just a month away after reports emerged that Washington has sent a proposal to Pyongyang to hold the next North Korea-US summit in mid-February in Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. We'll look further at the implications of these reports later in the programme. But first, we start with the latest headlines by turning to Devin Whiting at the News Centre. Devin?
Hi, Jang-ho. First, the appalling air pollution today in South Korea. The capital, Seoul, and just about everywhere else is in a thick haze. This so-called fine dust is a health risk, so the government has taken emergency measures to reduce it, which include restrictions on driving. Hong Yu has the latest.
Covering their noses and mouths with masks, people try to protect themselves on the morning commute as the average fine dust density exceeded 134 micrograms per cubic meter in Seoul.
Everyone knows how harmful fine dust is, so people wear masks. But it's really uncomfortable wearing this. And this is not cheap, so think about having to buy this every time.
Starting on Sunday, high densities of fine dust filled the air over many regions, including the capital area, and emergency fine dust reduction measures were applied for 2 consecutive days for the first time this year. Emergency fine dust reduction measures include closing parking lots at public offices, prohibiting the use of diesel cars made before 2005, and an alternate day no driving system. These measures are applied when the average fine dust density per cubic meter is above 50 micrograms.
Dense fine dust settled over the country due to fine dust arriving from China, plus fine dust produced within South Korea that stagnated for a long period of time due to high atmospheric pressure. Air quality will start to improve on Tuesday morning.
55 businesses that have made a voluntary agreement with the Environment Ministry will prioritize the use of eco-friendly fuels and make improvements in emission efficiency while the emergency fine dust reduction measures are in effect. Seoul Metropolitan Government and the Environment Ministry advises people to avoid outdoor activities and to wear masks when going outside. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
South Korea and Japan are holding working-level discussions on this Monday in Singapore to clear up misunderstandings between them about a recent disputed encounter between their militaries in the East Sea. The South Korean side is led by the Chief Director of Military Support under the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Vice Admiral Boo Seok-jong, and the Japanese side by his counterpart, Takeshi Ishikawa. Late last month, a Japanese patrol aircraft claimed that it was targeted by a South Korean destroyer when the ship was on a humanitarian mission to rescue a distressed North Korean vessel in international waters in the East Sea. South Korea's defense ministry has said the mission was hindered by the Japanese plane flying at low altitude in a way that could be seen as threatening, and it's asked Tokyo to stop distorting the facts. South Korean courts have recently ordered Japanese companies to compensate Koreans forced to work for them during World War II. Japan wants to discuss the issue, and it's reportedly asked Seoul to respond within a month to its request for talks. Last Wednesday, Japan requested talks with South Korea under the 1965 bilateral agreement that normalized ties between the two countries. On Monday, a senior official at South Korea's foreign ministry confirmed that Tokyo has asked for a reply within 30 days. Seoul has said that it will review the request in detail and will even consider adding other issues to the talks, including Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women. The time frame is seen as Japan maneuvering to take the case to the next stage, the International Court of Justice. South Korea will be getting its first 2 stealth fighter jets this March from the U.S. They're the first of dozens South Korea is buying over the next couple of years, and it's expected they'll play a major role in the country's defense. Kan Hyung-woo reports.
South Korea will soon have its first F-35A stealth fighter jets, acquiring them from the United States by the end of March. According to military sources, Seoul is expected to deploy these 2 stealth fighter jets sometime between April and May. With their advanced radar-evading capabilities, the F-35A fighter jets can perform ground attacks and air missions with a range of precision weapons. Instantly boosting the nation's defense capability, the newest assets to the South Korean Air Force will play a crucial role in the military's preemptive strike system. Back in 2014, South Korea agreed to buy 40 stealth fighter jets from the US, 10 of which will be delivered before the end of this year, with the rest to be brought in by 2021. A single warplane is reportedly priced at some $100 million. South Korea may purchase 20 additional F-35As to bring its total up to 60, as the Air Force has requested more assets. Kang-young-woo, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in is meeting today with business leaders as part of his administration's efforts to breathe life into the economy. The presidential office says the meeting, in a town hall setting, will bring together the country's most successful business leaders, including the heads of Samsung Electronics, Hyundai Motor, SK, and LG Group, as well as the heads of mid-sized companies for a frank discussion. A week ago, the president also met with small and medium-sized companies and venture firms. These talks were planned at the start of the new year to try and boost consumption and the local economy in general. A new report highlights the extent to which tech giant Samsung Electronics has dominated sales figures for Korean firms over the past decade, saying that behind the company's success is its strategy of enlarging its market as opposed to cost-cutting. Cho Jae-beom has this report.
For 17 years since 2002, Samsung Electronics has had the highest annual sales out of the top 1,000 publicly traded firms. And for the past 7 years, it has taken up roughly 10% of the combined annual sales volume of those 1,000 firms. This is according to the latest report on the tech giant by the Korea CXO Institute, a Korean business data analysis firm that surveys companies by sales and industry. The director of Korea CXO Institute attributes Samsung's achievement to its strategy of enlarging the market and sales rather than cutting down on cost. However, the future for the tech giant is not all that rosy. The firm's operating profits had been on the rise since 2016, but the latest figure in January shows they are starting to fall. Korean securities firms also forecast the firm's operating profits to be around $40 billion this year, down 24% from last year. Cho Jae-beom, Arirang News.
For a second time today, prosecutors are questioning the former Chief Justice of South Korea's Supreme Court, Sung-tae, over allegations that he abused his power. Prosecutors are said to be grilling Yang about whether he illegally used his power during trials involving the Unified Progressive Party, which is a now defunct far-left minor party. He's also being asked about whether he illegally collected confidential documents belonging to the Constitutional Court. Last week, Yang was questioned about allegations that he used the Supreme Court to lobby for the former Park Geun-hye administration. He served as the Supreme Court's Chief Justice from 2011 to 2017. I'm Devin Whiting, and those are your news headlines.
Washington has revealed that it's hashing out the details with North Korea for the next summit between President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. Sources are suggesting that the date and location has been proposed by Washington for Vietnam next month, but confirmation is still pending. Park Hee-jun reports.
North Korea and the U.S. are apparently making considerable preparations for their second summit. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo told CBS's Face the Nation on Sunday that Washington is working out the details with Pyongyang. President Trump also previously said the two sides are negotiating on a location and that it will be announced in the not-too-distant future. There are reports indicating the venue is already being narrowed down to Vietnam. Vietnam has diplomatic relations with both countries and is within flying distance for North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The Japanese daily Asahi Shimbun reports that Trump suggested to Kim that they meet in the third week of February in Vietnam. It also said officials from the two sides recently met in New York to discuss the summit, but were unable to reach a decision. Japan's Yomiuri Shimbun and Singapore-based The Straits Times also report that Vietnam is the favorite. But other locations, such as Bangkok, Hawaii, and the inter-Korean truce village of Panmunjom have also been suggested. The nuclearization talks between Pyongyang and Washington have stalled since Pompeo's trip to the north last October. But taking into account that Pompeo's tour of the Middle East ends on Tuesday, there's mounting speculation that high-level or working-level talks between the two sides could take place as early as this week to thrash out the logistics for the second summit. Watchers say that considering the Trump administration has said repeatedly that it wants to hold the summit early this year, the date and location should be announced soon. Park Ki-jun, Arirang News.
Now, for more on these latest developments, we have joining us Professor Cho Jae-beom from the Kyunghee University. It's good to have you here today.
Thank you.
So Pompeo has confirmed that the US is working out details with North Korea over the next North Korea-US summit.
Yes.
How far along the process do you think they are?
I think they're well into it because over the past 6 months or so, although it seems like the talk has been stalled for the past half year, but there's also, a lot of reports saying that, there's some discrete contacts made between the United States and North Korea, and there's some unofficial meetings that took place. So based on these speculations, I think they're well into the progress, and they were able to manage to hold, Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un summit last week. So I think we are almost getting there.
If we remember the preparations for the last North Korea-US summit in Singapore, the two sides seemed to agree on the date and venue first, before they'd really worked out the details of what they were going to discuss in the summit. I mean, with the reports that Washington has now, proposed a date and venue again, it seems like we're treading the same path. Would you agree?
A little disagreement here because I think their proposal, the United States proposal of date and venue seems to have come first because, the news is already out. But like I just pointed out, there has been some substantive talks that went on between the United States and North Korea, and I think they've been trying to coordinate and come up with some substantive and concrete agendas for the next summit, but that has not been reported yet. So I think, just like you pointed out in the opening statement, I think they're ready to meet, the two leaders from the United States and North Korea, and I think this is where they're heading towards to. So I think if they did not have any, agendas coordinated, then I don't think that the date and venue would have been made public.
But normally with these kind of talks, this normally goes from working level to high level to the actual leaders meeting. But the issue has been over the last few months there has been no working talks. There has been no high level talks. So it seems they're going backwards again. Sorting out the leaders talk first, and then now working out high-level talks.
Yes, in a way. I don't know if we can, trust all these reports that came out during the past half year or so about the, unofficial contacts and, working level contacts in third countries and in Panmunjom and so forth. I don't know what the official agendas at these talks were. That has not been disclosed either. So what we can take from these unofficial ongoing talks between the United States and North Korea is, I guess we can take it as an indicative of their intention of arranging and realizing this upcoming summit between the two countries. I think that's a good beginning, and I think that's how they started off their pedals.
Now, when I say high-level talks as well, I mean specifically between a U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and the senior North Korean official Kim Yong-chol.
That's right.
I mean, they've met in October, but they haven't met since. It's almost 3 months now. I mean, there are now speculation that they might start meeting again within the next week or so, even this week. What do you say about that kind of speculation?
I think they'll probably try to finalize the official agendas, and if there's any differences of opinion, they might try to coordinate their positions and the agendas too. And I think they would have to finalize the agendas for both leaders of the United States and North Korea before they meet, so that they can, come out with a concrete and substantive conclusion from the meeting.
How far away, though, do you think they are at this point, trying to agree some sort of process towards denuclearization? Because all the reports say they're too far apart. That's why they haven't been able to meet.
Yes, true. But at the same time, there are some, smoking guns coming out from the United States that, I think they're not too far apart. I think there was a vivid discrepancy in their concept of denuclearization, but I think they're coming close to closing down the gap on the concepts of these denuclearization question here. because the smoking gun is that there could be a small deal or a big deal reached between the two leaders of the United States and North Korea, and I think that shows that how close they're getting to. And one speculation is if there's going to be a small deal made between the two countries, then it could be a freezing the nuclear development program in North Korea, and at the same time some relief of sanctions to North Korea. But if they're going to make a big deal, then it's going to be all denuclearization process, and in return for peace process on the Korean Peninsula.
But that big deal, it's always been, there's very skeptical at many people, because it seems like so difficult, and like, why would North Korea give up their nuclear weapons right now?
Yes, that's
then
right.
on the other hand, if it's a small deal, then would people, especially opponents of President Trump, would they say it's good enough? They would say that that's still leaving North Korea with their nuclear program. Then.
True, but it's going to give Trump some rooms to explain and justify his position, because if the small deal is made between the two countries, then that's going to be a good starting point towards the denuclearization process. Because thus far, and over the years, the past 2 decades or so, we weren't able to find some common grounds for as a starting point for denuclearization process. And I think a small deal could really substantiate that effort.
Washington has reportedly proposed to Pyongyang the venue and location for this for the next summit.
Yes.
And they're saying it could be they've proposed Hanoi in Vietnam, and that's going to be next month as well, the third week of February reportedly. Why have they chosen Hanoi as this venue, do you think? And what do you think of that venue?
Yes, just like one of the reporters pointed out in her statement, that I think there are a few conditions that serves the interests of North Korea here. As we can take it from the Singaporean case, there's a North Korean embassy in Hanoi, and obviously Vietnam has a diplomatic relationship with the United States and North Korea as well. And at the same time, it's within the reach of North Korea's flight service that Hanoi is. So I think that serves North Korea's interests and safety concerns. So I think Hanoi would be a suitable and ideal choice for North Korea's interest.
I mean, but Singapore had a lot of history about holding these kind of big diplomatic events.
True.
I mean, does Vietnam have the same kind of infrastructure and preparedness that Singapore very deftly showed during the summit last time?
Yeah, Hanoi is a modernized city, and as many would have visited, it's a well-developed city, and it's got a sufficient infrastructure to host such an event. And I think over the years, they were able to host some ASEAN events at the same time, too.
So we'll look forward to, hopefully, our team might be going to Hanoi sometime soon in the next month or so. We'll have to see what happens. Yes. Moving on, there has been a report in the Foreign Policy magazine in the US that says Washington has eased some of the most stringent sanctions on humanitarian assistance, lifting travel restrictions, for example, on American aid workers and on humanitarian supplies for programs that supposedly tackle infectious diseases such as cholera and tuberculosis. But, that was suggested a month ago by the US Special Representative Stephen Biegun as well. I mean, why do you think the US has done this now, especially when there are all these negotiations supposedly happening?
I think obviously the United States wanted to extend its gesture of sincerity to the North Korea regime about their positions and on the upcoming talks, and their willingness to have talks with North Korea. And I think it's also indicative that they're over the hump of the stalemate of the talks between the United States and North Korea, because apart from the UN resolutions, the United States was not even willing to give out humanitarian assistance and aid to North Korea, despite all these ongoing disease and difficulties facing their sanitary system. But here, I think they're over the. I think it tells us that they're over the hump, and that they're willing to show some positive signs to North Korea that they're ready to talk to Pyongyang regime.
How do you think North Korea will react to this news? Do you think they'll welcome it?
I think, well, international relations is all about interpretation of the intent of the behavior, right? So it's going to depend on North Korea's perception, like you just stated. Obviously, North Korea I think they'll embrace the offering from the United States, and I think they will take it as a positive sign and friendly gesture from Washington.
But is that what they want? They want bigger things, I'm assuming. They want economic sanctions lifted.
Yes. As I pointed out and emphasized, we would always have to have a good starting point, right? And it could be a good starting point for them.
Let's move on to this, the North Korea-China relations as well, because these developments are all coming after Kim Jong-un visited Beijing last week. It was a surprise visit as well, which many hadn't expected. And some North Korea watchers have interpreted this as this surprise trip as North Korea leader showing Washington what he means by when he said that he's going to find a new way, a new path for North Korea relations with the world when he said during his New Year's Day speech.
Yes.
Would you agree with that interpretation?
I would agree to a certain extent, but to a certain extent I would disagree because I would agree because I took that statement on the surface, at surface value, that's for sure. Obviously, when Kim Jong-un said new path, he made it really clear that the new path would be, strengthening the relationship with traditional socialist states, which is China, and friendly nations, which is Russia. But I would disagree to a certain extent because lately I found this article from Chinese media explaining all the courses of what happened before the summit was finalized and realized in early January, because it was at the request of Donald Trump at G20 meeting with Xi Jinping last month, and obviously Xi Jinping accepted the challenge from the United States, and he invited Kim Jong-un for the summit. So it was the United States that requested the summit and China to play the mediating role, and China accepted the deal and invited Kim Jong-un for a summit meeting. And obviously in the final outcomes of the summit meeting, we could see China was pressing North Korea to be more political about the denuclearization and the Korean affairs questions. Here, what they mean by being political is you have to make a decision now. It's crunch time for North Korea. Yeah. So obviously, this is a golden opportunity, just like Xi Jinping pointed out, that we could solve this problem politically, which means that North Korea, if they can make up their mind and comes forward with substantive deal with the United States, then everything's going to be opening up the way for everything.
Wow, it's a very interesting report. So it was Donald Trump who, in fact, asked Xi Jinping to invite Kim Jong-un so they can talk about denuclearization.
That's right.
Doesn't that mean Donald Trump basically owes Xi Jinping some sort of debt in this situation?
Yes,
because it's a request.
At the same time, in return, China also conceded a lot when there was a trade talk between the two countries in Beijing while Kim Jong-un was visiting.
So you would say the trade talks and the denuclearization talks with North Korea, they're all linked together. They all do play a part.
Yes.
Like Trump suggested like months ago that Xi Jinping was influencing North Korea.
That's
you
right.
think these kind of comments are fair?
That's right. That's right. I would absolutely say so, because otherwise, Trump would have made that request to Xi Jinping when they were meeting up in G20 in Argentina last month.
Interesting. So then looking ahead now, what influence does China play? What role does China play in this situation now going ahead?
I think it changes from time to time, that's for sure. Sometimes, China will be on the side with North Korea, and just like this time, obviously China is on the side with the United States because their strategic interests regarding the nuclear question of the Korean Peninsula coincides. So it serves both interests, and I think this is the year that Xi Jinping also feels compelled to push or press a little bit North Korea to move forward on this particular question. Otherwise, it would just continue to drag on, and it's going to only destabilize the peace and stability of the Korean Peninsula, especially with all these pending situations in the United States domestic politics and world economy and so forth. So Xi Jinping and China might as well want to get rid of this or get over this Korean question.
Interesting. Well, we're out of time, unfortunately, but thank you for coming today and sharing us your thoughts.
Thank you.
And that is where we'll bring our show to a close. I'll be back same time tomorrow. In the meantime, thank you for watching and hope you can join us again next time. Goodbye.